I'm Dave Titley, co-founder and managing director of RV Weather Enterprises. In this video, we're going to use WILMA to help us plan and evaluate a typical cross-country route. The routing and weather challenges are based on real data and real weather as of the 7th of February, 2024. WILMA stands for Weather Impacts Likely to Make an Appearance. WILMA takes all the weather variables RVers care about and combines them into a single animated graphic overlaid on the nation's road system. Whether you are planning a trip or already on the road, WILMA shows you the weather impacts you can expect for the next 8 days. To learn more, click on the video linked above. Our route that we're going to show is an RVer going from San Diego, California to Panama City. It's about 2,100 miles, so let's say we're going to do 300 miles a day. And let's also say they're okay in marginal impacts or level 1 impacts. They'd really like to not be in level 3, so pretty typical for a lot of the routings that I do. We're going to start here at the home page, and we're going to go to WILMA. What we'll do is we'll get an overview of how this route looks from WILMA, and we're just going to use today's data. One thing I should say is I've worked out at 300 miles a day roughly where the stops are going to be. So let's go to the 8th of February. That'll be our start date. And just as a reminder, my computer here in Pennsylvania is in Eastern time, so at least to begin the journey, we're going to have to subtract 3 hours off this time. So if you were planning this from San Diego, you would be in Pacific time, and that would be great to start with, and then you'd have to start doing the time zone calculations as you get later on in your trip. So let's move this out, and we can already see it's lots of colors in Southern California, so this could be a little bit interesting. 7 in the morning East Coast, that's still 4 a.m. Let's get to 6 a.m., 7 a.m. Well, the colors are getting less bad, I'll put it that way. This is 8 o'clock now, but we can see there's certainly some colors here, and that's going to be winds coming through the San Diego County mountains here on I-8. Let's say we're going to keep on going to Gila Bend. So as we go through the day, how does this look? Well, the winds do spread into the desert. Some probably, so the blue is level 1, that's gusts to 30. So there'll certainly be some winds, but it looks like by the time you get to the Colorado River or basically Yuma, the winds are really dropping below 30 miles an hour. So we'll come back and take a more detailed look at what's going on in the San Diego County mountains there, but that looks like something we're going to have to deal with right off the bat. Okay, how does it look to Deming, which will be our next stop? So this would be on the 9th. We want to get our WILMA here loaded up for the daytime hours on the 9th. This will be 10 a.m. Eastern, so let's say 8 o'clock Mountain. That's a reasonable start time. And just look how we look through the day. Well, we're looking pretty good, much better than it did on Thursday the 8th. So Friday looks like a pretty good day. How does it look for Saturday? And Saturday we're going to go from Deming to Fort Stockton, so we're going to get ourselves heading through western Texas. Again, it's 8 o'clock start. Okay, so as the day goes on, you can see the winds coming up on I-10, Guadalupe Mountains, so probably I would want to make sure I don't dawdle around too much leaving Deming on Saturday. I'd probably like to get to the split no later than early afternoons. Okay, so we get to Fort Stockton. Let's see how Sunday the 11th is going to look here. As we start going here, it looks like there is some level 1 impacts, which will turn out to be winds when we look at the details. And there's actually thunderstorms well to the east on the Gulf Coast of Texas. You're going to want to get on the road at a pretty good time and avoid those impacts. Now, it's not a huge deal. It's level 1, so that means the gusts are 30 to 40 miles an hour. But, you know, if you don't have to drive in them or tow in them, it's just as well. We're safely into San Antonio on Sunday. Now let's see what Monday the 12th is going to look like when we head on from San Antonio to Beaumont. And what it looks like is there's actually some winds that come through overnight. Fortunately, it's overnight, so I don't think it's going to bother us too much, and it looks like those winds push off the coast we're going to be okay. This is now a 5-day forecast. We'll want to watch Wilma as we're on the journey and see if that timing changes. But right now, it looks like those winds we saw to the west of us, behind us on Sunday, come through San Antonio Sunday night. But by Monday morning, they're pretty much out. So I think we're going to have a decent trip to Beaumont. And then how does the 13th look? The 13th looks pretty good, and so does the 14th. As is so often, once you get through Texas, the most exciting weather is now behind you. So it looks like a pretty good trip. Yes, there are some thunderstorms, but they're well to the east. We shouldn't have to worry about them. Yes, there's some snow. That's well to the north. Well, how do I know all that? Well, what we could do is we can go through the parameters here up on the top. And given that it's winter time, honestly, it's always a good idea to check. Even if you're down on I-10, we've all seen what can happen in Texas. Every once in a while, they will get some very cold air and some very nasty winter weather all the way down to the Gulf Coast, all the way down to El Paso. So even on I-10, always check. Let's check snow. Snow may be a little bit more interesting. And again, we'll just move this into more where we care about. And again, just as a review, if it's gray, that means the data hasn't loaded yet. If it's gone blue on this bottom bar here, that means that you have data to look at. And we can see that on the 8th, maybe 1 or 2 blue specks in the mountains. So my guess is that means there could be some snow on the highest peaks, but I-8's not that high in elevation, so we should be good. And on the 9th, which is our second day, we're heading to Deming. There is some snow in Arizona and New Mexico, but the good news is it's up on I-40, up on the high country, Flagstaff, Gallup, places like that. It's not an issue for us. Coming through now on the 10th, we can see more snow coming through New Mexico into the 11th, and there's that snow coming through the Panhandle on the 11th. Where are we on the 11th? We're going from Fort Stockton to San Antonio. No surprises here on the Gulf Coast, and that's just as well. Let's look at winds. Here we go. What we have for the winds, you can see here on the 8th, sure enough, it's winds in the San Diego County mountains. My time is Eastern time, so this is 3 in the morning before we get going. But yeah, that's going to be some pretty good winds. And I'll show you a way, once we're done going through these parameters, of how you can double check since this is tomorrow. The first thing I would ask myself, is there a National Weather Service warning out? And if so, what does that say? But this looks like we're going to have a few miles of moderate impact. That would be winds 50, probably gusting to 55. Certainly, we're going to be gusting in the 40s. That's what the yellow would be. And we could stay with wind gusts in the 30s all the way out to Arizona there. We'll just back up here to see what other excitement we have as this route goes on. There we go. Let's look for the 9th. The 9th looks honestly pretty good. The 10th is where we go to Fort Stockton, and again, as long as we have a reasonable time to get going in the morning, we're going to comfortably miss the winds around El Paso, Las Cruces, and even out to the I-10, I-20 split. On the 11th, this is where we get chased by the winds as we're coming into San Antonio. So again, I'd want an earlier start and just make sure we're nicely bedded down before we got to deal with any winds. Probably breezy that night. For the 12th, 13th, 14th, there are some winds you can see right on the Gulf Coast, but they're south of I-10, and that should not be an issue for us. That's all looking pretty good. And the last one we'll just check very quickly is thunderstorms. Again, not usually too big an issue for February, but always worth checking when you're this far south. Saturday, the 11th, this is when we're going from Fort Stockton to San Antonio. You can see it's good that we're not a day ahead. Then we'd have to think about what we're going to do in Beaumont and places like that, but we don't have to worry about them. So those thunderstorms do come through into the Panhandle, but it's on the 12th, and we don't get there till the 14th. Really no issues with the thunderstorms. That's how I would look at this. The big issue we see for weather really is right out of the gate. It's those winds through the mountains. See if the Weather Service actually has a warning out. We can check that. If you go down through here, you'll come to Key Weather right now. And lo and behold, here are the current National Weather Service warnings. We can click on that, open up a new window. And on this window, you can click on the map itself, and it's going to tell you what warnings we have. Winter storm warning, flood watch, wind advisory. Let's first read the winter storm warning. And 6 to 10 inches, that's not good. But what is good is it's above 4,000 feet. So that's way above the elevation of I-8. We don't worry about that one. What about the wind advisory? From noontime to 7 p.m. on Thursday afternoon, gusts up to 55. What we saw with Wilma, though, was the winds may be peaking earlier than that. It may be really strong in the morning. So I would tend to have a late-ish start and basically allow those winds to die down as much as they can. But understand, if I'm going to do this, I'm going to get some winds. Now, they are from the west, so that means they're blowing basically from San Diego to Yuma, and that's the direction we're going. So these are going to be what we would call following winds. They're the easiest ones to drive through, but if you've gone through I-8 in that part before, it's pretty twisty and turny in the canyons and stuff. So you're probably going to get a few crosswind gusts at least. You've got to decide whether or not you can deal with that for 10 or 20 miles. And if you can, then the rest of the trip doesn't look too bad. If you can't, that's where you would say, well, let's leave on the 9th. And when we went through there, we could see then we would have to deal with those winds in Texas. Remember those winds that were chasing us? So that's kind of how we would think about this. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Have you already used Wilma to route a trip? How would you use Wilma? I hope this video has been useful in showing how we can use Wilma to assist in planning our RV trips. Wilma will show you days in advance where the weather hard spots will likely be, so you can control rather than react to that situation. Conversely, Wilma can give you great peace of mind when you see that you are not going to have to deal with significant weather over the next 4, 5, or 6 days. Interested in subscribing to Wilma? Go to rvweather.com and click on Pricing on the menu. You can sign up for Wilma and learn more about our other products too. Until next time, safe travels.